The Vorkai cubs had not stopped watching her since the second day. That was how Ranger Hannah knew she was doing something right. She had been assigned to the Vorkai Sanctuary on Pella's 4 for 6 months, a posting most of her colleagues at the Interspecies Conservation Corps had declined. The Vorkai were predators. Apex ones. They stood taller than most humans on all 4 limbs, with dense silver fur and jaw structures capable of shearing bone. Their cubs were already larger than adult wolves by the time they were weaned. Their mothers had been known to overturn survey vehicles when they felt threatened. Hannah had volunteered. She had grown up near the wilderness preserves of the Sobek Mountains. She understood the logic of large, dangerous animals, not as threats to be neutralized, but as systems to be respected. Every creature that could kill you was also protecting something. You just had to figure out what. For the Vorkai, it was family. The sanctuary's 3 cubs, Sura, Beck, and Little Oren, had lost their mother to a poaching snare 8 weeks before Hannah arrived. They had been sedated and moved to the monitored inner preserve, where a skeletal ICC crew kept them fed and documented their behavior. The cubs were surviving. They were not thriving. Hannah had changed that by doing almost nothing. She sat near them at feeding time. She did not approach. She did not speak loudly. She used slow movements and kept her gaze at an angle. She had read enough ethological literature on Vorkai body language to know that direct eye contact was a dominant signal. She let them decide the distance. When Oren crept close enough on the 4th day to sniff her boot, she had held completely still, her heart rate steady, her breath controlled. The cub retreated. The next morning, all 3 of them were closer. By the 3rd week, they followed her on her morning perimeter walks. Dr. Arvind Salif, the Cathali xenobiologist assigned to the sanctuary, had pulled her aside after observing this development. "You understand," he said carefully, his secondary eyelids flicking in what Hannah had come to recognize as Cathali discomfort, that bonded Vorkai cubs become extremely reactive when their attachment figure is threatened. The behavioral literature is unambiguous on this point. "I've read the literature," Hannah said. "Then you understand the liability." "I understand the cubs," she said. "That's different." Salif had watched her walk away without another word. The crisis came on a Tuesday, which Hannah always thought was a terrible day for crises. The sanctuary's eastern perimeter had been flagged 3 times in the past month for unauthorized drone activity. Survey drones, the ICC's security team believed, deployed by Resker Extraction, a licensed mineral company that had been lobbying aggressively to reclassify portions of Pella's 4 as low conservation value territory. The reclassification would legally open the region to strip operations. Resker's legal team had already filed 2 challenges to the sanctuary's protected status. When the eastern fence went down at 0600, Hannah was already dressed. She had heard the low hum of ground vehicles in the hour before dawn. She radioed the station, got static. The signal relay must have been jammed, and she went anyway. She carried her Ranger pack and a handheld flare launcher, both standard issue. The cubs followed her out of habit. She hadn't been able to stop them without wasting time she didn't have. She found the team at the tree line, 6 humans in Resker extraction gear, carrying sample cores and scanning equipment. Not poachers, surveyors, but they were inside the protected boundary, which made their presence a criminal violation regardless of paperwork. Their lead surveyor, a heavy-set man with a Resker badge and the particular expression of someone who had never been told no by anyone with real authority, looked at Hannah and then at the 3 Vorkai cubs flanking her and laughed. "ICC sends 1 woman and 3 babies," he said to his team. "That's the famous Vorkai sanctuary. You're in violation of the Pella's 4 Conservation Covenant, Section 9, paragraphs 4 through 11, Hannah said. Your equipment is flagged for unlicensed ground survey in a protected biome. I need you to power down and hold position until ICC enforcement arrives." "Enforcement," he repeated. "Your radios are down, sweetheart. We'll be done in 40 minutes and out before anyone comes." Hannah moved toward them. The terrain on the eastern slope was uneven, a seam of root-bound rock that the survey maps showed clearly and that Hannah had crossed dozens of times. She knew which footing held and which shifted. She had crossed it in darkness, in rain, in fog. She crossed it now at a pace slightly faster than she intended, because the lead surveyor had begun moving his team forward with a deliberate disregard that she recognized as a test. She was watching him instead of the ground. The root caught her left boot at an angle she had not anticipated, and her knee hit the rock before she could recover. The pain was sharp and immediate. She caught herself on her palms, took 2 seconds to assess. Twisted, not broken, she could stand, and began to rise. The cubs howled. It was not the sound she had heard at feeding time, not the playful bark and yip of the mornings. It was something older, a long, rising harmonic that split between 3 throats and built into something that the trees seemed to absorb rather than reflect. Sura planted herself between Hannah and the surveyors. Beck dropped low, his haunches coiled. Oren, small, uncertain Oren who still sometimes slept with his head on Hannah's boots, had his lips pulled back from teeth that were already longer than adult fingers. The lead surveyor stopped laughing. Hannah stood. Her knee screamed. She put weight on it anyway because showing pain in front of territorial predators was not an option she was willing to exercise, and because she needed to be upright for what came next. She looked at the man. He was holding his scanner like a shield, which meant he was afraid. His team had staggered back 4 steps without coordination, which meant they were more afraid. The cubs had not charged. They were waiting. Hannah knew why. They were looking at her, waiting for her signal, waiting for her to tell them what the threat level required. She had read about this in the literature. Bonded Vorkai cubs deferred to their attachment figure in ambiguous threat scenarios. They were asking her. Hannah exhaled slowly through her nose. She looked at the lead surveyor and spoke in the same flat register she used for reporting weather conditions. "Run," she said. She did not shout it. She did not gesture. She simply said it, and the cubs heard the word, and they heard the weight behind it, and Sura took 1 step forward with a sound low in her chest that was not quite a growl and not quite anything else in any known vocabulary. The surveyors ran. They left the scanner. They left 2 core sample cases and a portable relay unit. They ran back through the tree line at a pace Hannah would have found impressive under other circumstances, crashing through brush without looking back, their footsteps fading into the distance with the particular urgency of men who had suddenly remembered that they were small. Hannah stood still until the sound disappeared. Then she sat down on the root that had caught her and let herself feel the knee properly. Swollen. Would need ice and elevation. She had both back at the station. She radioed again. The relay unit the surveyors had left was live, and the signal came through immediately, Salatha's voice crackling with professional alarm before she told him what had happened, and he shifted registers entirely. Oren sat beside her and pressed his enormous silver head against her shoulder. She put her hand on the back of his neck, the way she had seen the cub's mother do in the archive footage, slow and firm and without hesitation. "I know," she said. "Good job." He made a sound she had no word for. The Rescue Extraction Survey team filed a formal complaint with the ICC the following week. It cited dangerous wildlife conditions, unauthorized predator contact, and what the lead surveyor described as a deliberate threat escalation by an ICC ranger. The ICC reviewed the complaint alongside the recovered scanner footage, the GPS logs confirming the team's violation of the protected boundary, and Dr. Salatha's written summary of Vorkai bonding behavior and its documented precedents in conservation literature. The complaint was dismissed. The boundary violation resulted in a fine and a 6-month suspension of Rescue's survey licensing on Pella's 4. Hannah's knee healed in 11 days. The cubs, according to Salatha's behavioral log, spent all 11 of those days sleeping closer to the station than they ever had before. He noted this in his report without comment, in the precise and careful way of a scientist who has decided that some things simply do not require explanation. He was right.